During this podcast, I'm chatting with Serge Milbank, founder and director of Confer, a video commerce platform. Since his time cutting his marketing teeth with Ogilvy in the early noughties, it's been his mission to deliver technology that improves the online experience to increase engagement and improve sales. Serge could be described as a serial entrepreneur and a prolific investor in marketing technologies, as well as an advisor at board level to many startup companies. During this discussion, we concentrate on his latest venture to find out why video commerce could further help organizations bridge the gap between physical and online shopping. Serge, looking through your LinkedIn profile, you've founded and or invested in many startups since your time as an account director at Ogilvy's. The majority of these tend to be marketing tech companies. So would you say that you're a technologist or an investor at heart?
I think probably I'm neither. At heart, I'm in e-commerce, and what I mean by that is, e-commerce is all about driving revenue and all about driving sales for customers, and hopefully satisfying those customers in the process. And my focus over the years has been about really driving volume on B2C e-commerce operations, all the way up to sort of enterprise, all the way down to startups, sort of starting out trying to launch themselves on the market. The technology element of it that comes into it is on the B2B side, where it's actually rolling out marketing technology. Well rolled out marketing technology and very appropriate marketing technology is often a game changer for a B2C e-commerce operation. So naturally, there tends to be a lot of interest in that area, but equally, there's other elements to it as well. There's the systems and processes of making a great e-commerce operation work. There's the financing and budgeting of those areas as well. All of those things, when you start to bring them all together, including the people involved as well, that's I think where the passion actually tends to lie from an e-commerce perspective. Now, I think from an investor, when you're in the industry and you come across marketing tech that can make a fundamental difference to the outcome of an e-commerce operation, be that from a revenue perspective, be that from a conversion perspective, be that from a customer satisfaction perspective, and maybe even to a lesser extent to an efficiency perspective, they're the kind of businesses that I've tended to get involved with, either as an advisor or as an investment perspective to support them along. So I guess you ultimately become a technologist when you're in e-commerce, but I think we can't lose sight of the main outcome is people are going to online shops to purchase and to buy, and really someone who's a practitioner of e-commerce is focusing almost exclusively on that, and by whatever means necessary, to hit the KPIs.
So that brings us very nicely around to what you're doing now with a company called Confer. Could you tell me a little bit about what it does and what your proposition is?
Yeah, okay. Well, look, I'll take a very quick step back as well on it. So when I left my last business, we had a very big focus on driving volume for our clients, et cetera, in e-commerce. And what I did is I went round and started asking myself the question as to why is an online conversion rate so low? So typically an online conversion rate will hover anywhere between 1% and 5%, depending on the industry, depending on the time of year. Sometimes it's a little bit higher, sometimes it's a little bit lower. And we started examining what does good conversion really look like. And we had a look at call centers and we had a look at retail. And retail in particular was the one that we found was very interesting because the conversion rates are considerably higher. We're talking 20, 30, sometimes 40% conversion rates that are experienced in retail. And so there's a big disparity between those two sort of conversion rates. So I started asking retail people, how do you improve the conversion rate in retail? And the answer that sort of came back with is, well, okay, the first things we do is we try and establish a human connection, a face-to-face interaction, and establish some kind of emotional connection between, the shop assistant and the person and the shopper. The second thing that tends to happen then is, how can I help you? What do you need? And if a consumer expresses their needs, and then the shop assistant turns around and acknowledges those needs, conversion rate goes up. If the shop assistant then turns around and then responds to those needs and sort of says, I have a product that relates to your needs. And here is the product. Let's experience that product. Let's touch the product. Let's feel the product. I can answer questions about that product. And I happen to be in the shop environment that has had many millions of pounds spent creating a sort of an immersive experience. When all those things are in place, and they're not necessarily in place all the time in retail, but when that perfect kind of curve goes forward, all of a sudden you're experiencing much higher conversion rates. So the premise of Confer was about trying to replicate as close as humanly possible the retail experience online. And so broadly, what we're trying to do is we're trying to engage and immerse shoppers over live stream video with an integration into a product feed that delivers product experiences that hopefully that will boost conversion.
One of the things that does strike me about the move away from the high street is that could it be, and I'm playing a bit of devil's advocate here, that consumers who have shopped online are fully in control of what they buy and when they buy it. Yet when they go into a physical retail store and they do meet that salesperson or whatever, they may feel uncomfortable in the fact that they feel as though they've got to make a sale. And so it's an easier choice to purchase online. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think so. I think there's an opportunity for a consumer to spend more time browsing online. And I think what you'll find is there's an interaction that happens between online and retail. So people will bounce to the website, do their pre-research, and then they'll jump to the retail store to ask some reassuring questions, maybe convert there, or then maybe even go back to online to go and convert. Most of the larger enterprises that I dealt with over the years had many studies sort of saying, most of our high consideration products, most of those people have been through stores prior to making a conversion. So I think in particular is, yes, there's a certain segment of people that would be more than happy to purchase almost exclusively online. There's a segment of people that would happily spend all their time in retail. What's happened with COVID-19 is pulled those people that are more often than not happy with retail, and they've forced them online. And that becomes an opportunity because the conversion rate of those people will be considerably lower than the average conversion rates of what you'd see for the people that are more comfortable with online. The second thing that's reasonably interesting here is when I started doing the investigations of what a good retail conversion rate looked like, what dawned on me was the fact that actually a website is self-service. A website assumes your needs. It assumes it knows what it is. It sort of assumes that, if you're in a clothing store, it assumes that you want a certain piece of clothing, and then you start your consumer journey as you go through from there. And, lots of AI has been used and lots of maths has been used to try and predict that and to try and improve that online. Compare that to retail. You can just ask the question, what are you looking for? How can I help you? What do you need? And there's an instant interplay between the consumer and the shopkeeper. So, and most good retail is not, selling hard at someone anyway. Most good retail is understanding what they need and then responding to those needs.
Yeah, I think there's a good kind of discussion point, which probably we don't have time for today. But in B2B, it seems like the web takes over almost all of that process, almost till they've made a choice of one or two suppliers in which to go after. And that there's no interaction. They look online, they choose what kind of solutions, they look at the reviews, they come up with a short list of 2 or 3, and then they start to engage with those 2 or 3 companies. Whereas before, it was very much the salesperson was helping to create the need, understand the problems, ask the questions and things like that. But so I'm kind of sitting on the fence with saying actually B2B and B2C are not dissimilar, that more and more people are moving online and more people potentially are doing that self-service themselves rather than asking the question. But I do believe there are a lot of areas where people actually still want that help and still want that assistance in being able to understand what is best for them. You're listening to the shortened version of this podcast. To listen to the full version, visit your favourite podcast player and search for Webtrends Optimize or The Big Lift.